Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, all sorts of good stuff. And you can't have good stuff without the man who does YouTube a quarter mile at a time. It's Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, John. I guess I'm okay.
Didn't quite get your justice for Han, huh? Yeah. So last night, Rob and I went to go see Fast 9. We went to go see Fast and Furious 9. It is still under review embargo, so we're going to talk about some of the initial reactions going on about that a little bit later on. But that, I just wanted to give you guys some context why there might be a little bit of a, I don't know, what's the word, morose kind of feeling around the studio today, Rob. I suppose that's something to do. But we are glad that you guys are here joining us nonetheless. So here's how today's show is going to go, guys. We've got a number of predetermined topics that we've got set up that we're going to talk about during the first half of the show. Then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you got a comment or question you want to have fired in and read on the show, if it's appropriate for the show, just use the tip link that's down in the description of this video. You can click on it there or enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show, again, if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you're supporting the show at the same time. So all of us here at the show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. Okay, guys. With that, let's get into an off the top. And that one is this. Rob, we are still kind of living in the wake, if you will, of the Disney and Fox deal. I mean, we're still feeling and realizing and recognizing more and more repercussions of that Fox-Disney deal as new things roll out. We, of course, have just been talking about that AT&T is selling off Warner Media, and, you know, Discovery has paid $43 billion to take Warner Media, and they're going to merge in with Warner Media. That's going on. But, Rob, they're not the only big games in town. There's also this little site called Amazon that has enough money to buy and sell all those companies 4 or 5 times over. Well, we knew for a few months now that MGM and all of its assets have been putting out the feelers saying that they may be for sale, Rob. Well, now It looks like, according to the trades, it looks like there is one main player now who looks like they may be poised to take over Amazon. And you guessed it, it looks like it's going to be Amazon taking over MGM. At least that's what they're saying right now. This is in the Variety report, who say the following. Amazon is weeks into negotiations on a deal to acquire MGM for about $9 billion, industry sources tell Variety. Chatter that Amazon and other tech and media giants have been sniffing around MGM has circulated for some time, but sources indicated that Amazon's interest in acquiring the studio has taken on a new tenor beyond the usual rumor mill. The deal is said to be being orchestrated by Mike Hopkins, the senior vice president of Amazon Studios and Prime Video, directly with MGM board chairman Kevin Ulrich, whose Anchorage capital is a major MGM shareholder. So, Rob, you and I have talked about, you know, in this new dawn, this new era of the streaming wars, that it's going to be for the first 5 years or so, for at least the next couple of years as well, a wild, wild west, massive scramble to acquire content. Because you and I have always said this whole streaming wars thing is all going to be about exclusive content. What sets your streaming service apart and different from others? And just the breadth of content that you can offer. You know, do you have a lot there that if I sign up to your service, I've got some value there for what I'm getting? MGM, while not Warner Media, not Fox or anything like that, but MGM comes along and offers a very interesting palette of very recognizable IP, very respectable and recognizable titles. As a matter of fact, if we go back over to this article here, it says MGM claims to own one of the world's deepest libraries of premium film and TV content. Its 4,000 films titles include the James Bond films, The Hobbit, Rocky and Creed movies, RoboCop, the Pink Panther franchise, as well as movies like The Silence of the Lambs, The Magnificent Seven, and 4 Weddings and a Funeral. The MGM TV library includes approximately 17,000 episodes of programming, including Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, Vikings, I love Vikings, Fargo, The Handmaid's Tale, love The Handmaid's Tale, Get Shorty, Condor, Fame, American Gladiators, Teen Wolf, and In the Heat of the Night. Unscripted shows in its portfolio include The Voice, Survivor, Shark Tank, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and The Hills. And Rob, and by the way, Blackbone Olala sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate that. Rob, this isn't just, table scraps of content. This is some legitimate content, including, shows like, don't overlook shows like The Voice and Shark Tank. These are very streamable shows. That's the kind of shows that a lot of people just sit down and like, I'm going to pop something on. Shows like The Office, shows like The Voice and Shark Tank are things that they're like, really, really good TV time killer shows that a lot of people will go to, including obviously big titles like James Bond, The Hobbit, a whole bunch of things like that. For $9 billion. Rob, in an era right now when we have these streaming services overpaying for things because everybody's massively trying to get stuff. We, of course, just talked about Netflix paying $468 million just for the rights to 2 upcoming movies in Knives Out 2 and 3. It seems to me that a $9 billion price tag on just the library content that MGM brings with it seems like not a bad deal. And if Amazon can secure this, I think this is a really nice feather in their cap and goes a long way. Like, I'm already an Amazon Prime member, so I'd be thrilled to have a lot of that stuff brought over, made exclusive, things like that. I know, Rob, we're seeing a lot of this stuff going on right now, but what do you think specifically about the notion of Amazon taking over MGM?
Well, you know what I would really like to see? I would like to see MGM restored to its luster. I'd like to go in to see a lot more movies with that MGM lion in the front. And I think the great thing, I mean, Amazon has their own Amazon Studios, but I wouldn't mind seeing that MGM lion again with the logo underneath an Amazon company. I wouldn't hate that. I think what really worries me about all this, John, is I want to see executives that know and understand the movie business and how to work with creators and how to movie making is becoming so corporate. And I saw Chris Gore was talking on one of those Film Courage videos about how movies used to maybe check off one box, and that box was, it should be fun for the audience. And now you've got 20 boxes that everybody has to check off. The marketing people have to check off their boxes, and the studio has to check off its boxes. And I just feel we really need maverick people in positions at like MGM who know how to restore what reason people went to the movies in the first place. And I hope that maybe Amazon has enough, they can do whatever they want. So in doing that, maybe we'll see a new genuine influx of great creativity under the MGM umbrella, which I would love to see.
What do you think would be the most valuable part of that? Like, we talked about titles like James Bond and Hobbit and the Shark Tank or whatever. What do you think would be like the most valuable thing to Amazon in that library that we've been looking at?
Well, I mean, a lot of what was owned by MGM was bought and sold off by Ted Turner. So I don't know exactly, because Warner Brothers owns a lot of those titles now too. I think, I mean, obviously the Bond franchise, especially if they're going to move the Bond franchise forward, I could definitely see. I mean, that alone, however, whatever their ownership is or in terms of distribution, because obviously Albert Broccoli's company owns part of that franchise. But something like that with billion-dollar grossing films, John, like the Star Wars movies, if they kept the Bond franchise going, maybe spun off television shows, or did a Bond series, they go and they readapt the books and set them in the 50s and 60s during the Cold War. I mean, I could see that being a hit global television show. And if they were able to do that on that one title, also the Stargate franchise is something people love that franchise.
That's a very interesting set of titles that are in that list. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, the Stargate franchise is beloved, and it's something I've just been dipping my toes into. And I think it depends how you're going to exploit these titles moving forward. And, Amazon has the cash to really make real investments. Obviously they are with Lord of the Rings. Maybe they'll learn their lesson, or maybe it'll be a huge hit, But those two things alone, I could see them exploiting as streaming shows even for a long time to come.
And by the way, Annie Gamer Review sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thanks for that, Annie Gamer. Well, the question is for you. What do you think about now? It's not a done deal. It's just saying there are weeks into negotiations. Maybe this doesn't actually happen, but it looks like that's where things are going. How would you guys feel about Amazon taking over MGM? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move into our main topics today, shall we? How do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really simple. You guys come up with our main topics. Whenever you come across a big topic, story, or issue that you think we should cover here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. And while I read all the submissions, we can only pick a certain number. So if you submit that issue, maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1, shall we? And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Andrew. And Andrew writes, did you see that Dune is officially getting a theatrical-only release instead of going to HBO Max on the same day? Why did Warner Brothers finally give in? And do you think this will better our chances of director Denis Villeneuve coming back for a part 2? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, some really interesting stuff started floating around the web yesterday when I believe it was Deadline who buried in a story. It wasn't the headline. It was just buried in like paragraph 4 of the story. But they basically came right out and said in this Deadline report that essentially this: Warner Brothers is going to debut Dune at the Venice Film Festival, and then it will have a theatrical exclusive run for 45 days before going to Warner Brothers. So a lot of the talk and chatter started going around online that Warner Brothers, and by the way, Rob, you and I both predicted that we think Dune is going to go straight to an exclusive theatrical run. So that started running around. However, a little bit later in the evening last night, there was some pushback on this. This comes to us from the folks over at IGN who write, however, in the midst of all these reports that we were going to get Dune going to an exclusive theatrical window, Warner Media's head of communications, Joanna Fuentes, quickly took to Twitter to shoot down the reports. Dune, she says, will premiere in theaters and on HBO Max on the same day in the US. So in the midst of all these reports running around, Dune, somebody from Warner Media comes out and says Dune will premiere in theaters and on HBO Max at the same day in the US. So essentially, Rob, they're saying no, it's as it's always going to be. Dune is still going to come out in theaters and on HBO Max on the same day. So that was disheartening to hear last night. I mean, that was disheartening to hear because I think Dune is definitely a movie that should be getting an exclusive theatrical window. It's the only, like Denis Villeneuve said himself, it's the only way we can possibly generate enough revenue to justify us being able to do Dune 2. And, he basically called out Warner Brothers for the whole thing, for sabotaging him and for sabotaging the movie. So a lot of us thought, well, especially with Legendary's pressure, wonder if they will get that theatrical release. And I said over 50%. Over 50%. I think we're going to see that. Reports come out from Deadline. Now, Rob, here's the interesting thing. When I heard the response from, the rep from Warner Media, I immediately thought that's strange because Deadline is not Gus's gas station reviews.fart. Deadline doesn't run with stuff, generally speaking, unless they're pretty solid on it. So I made a call last night to somebody who wasn't able to give me any sort of definitive answers and just said this: things are still in the air. That's the only response I got, was that things are still in the air. What that tells me is that Deadline did catch wind of something, and it may still be something that happens. Maybe yes, maybe no. But for now, the official word is, despite all the things that we saw running around, as of right this moment, the official word is still that Dune is getting theatrical and HBO Max on the same day, which is, like everything else Warner Brothers has done with this whole thing, a bloody, stupid mistake on their part. But I am still hearing that it could very well switch over to theatrical exclusive. But for now, the official word is it's going to do both. Rob, you saw both sets of these reports. You know, what was your thought process when you saw the first report? And then what was your thought process when you saw the contrary report come out a little bit later? How did you see this?
Well, I mean, the proof is really in the pudding. I look at what happened with Godzilla versus Kong. Theatrically, it's done quite well. And that's even before a lot of restrictions had lifted, even here in the States. And to leave that money, you know, I mean, obviously, and that worked with both a theatrical and a day and date release window on HBO Max. But with the way things are going, with the way things are opening up and things are sort of slowly getting back to normal, I mean, Dune is a prestige event. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any bigger in terms of for me, Dune is not some mindless action film. This is an important movie. It's based on one of the most beloved pieces of science fiction literature ever written. It has a cast that's beyond A-list. I mean, in terms collectively, it's got to win that SAG award for best ensemble, I would imagine. And I can't imagine with somebody like Denis Villeneuve, in our day and age, John, I can't imagine a bigger and more prestigious studio release in this day and age. And why not make it that? You know, and the fact is, they want to make 2 more movies about the Paul Atreides story and make the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood TV show. Why not make it something that's special? And I just think if they're not, they're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I agree. And here's hoping that at some point, it sounds like it is something they're still considering. Fingers crossed they come to their senses and make the right decision. By the way, Michael Nardelli sends in like a $50 super chat badge in the live chat stream there. Thank you, Michael, so much for supporting the channel on that level, man. We really appreciate that. This is very generous of you. All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this right now? There was a lot of happiness going around yesterday when we heard that Dune was going to get an exclusive theatrical run the way that movie deserves. However, then came the contrary information saying, no, it's not. Still hearing like it's a possibility. I don't know. What do you think, guys, is ultimately going to happen? Don't tell me what you hope happens either way. What do you guys think will happen? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Ethan Holgate. And Ethan Holgate writes, "Hi, John. Deadline and Variety reports some of the most amazing news I've heard all year. After 10 years, Joe Cornish is coming back to write and direct a sequel to Attack the Block with John Boyega returning also. I'm beyond excited for this. I love the first one, and I've been wanting to see a sequel for so long. Thanks. And what are your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And Rob, throw this one under the category of movies that I have given up that we would ever see a sequel to. Because, you know, as more and more time goes by, it becomes more and more difficult, especially for a movie like Attack the Block that wasn't exactly like a huge blockbuster hit. Like, obviously, it's different. A movie made, you know, $1.2 billion. Okay, even if it takes them 5 years, they're going to make a sequel to it. But, you know, with Attack the Block, I had actually just fully given up because, Rob, there was like whispers and talks all the way up to like 2017 about maybe trying to get another one done, but then nothing happened. So we all just kind of thought it was done and gone, but nope. It's back, ladies and gentlemen. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline who write, "The aliens are back on the block. A decade after Attack the Block achieved sci-fi cult status and launched the careers of its stars John Boyega, Studio Canal, Film 4, Complete Fiction Pictures, and Upper Room Productions are moving forward with Attack the Block 2 with Boyega locked in to return as Moses, and Joe Cornish is coming back to write and direct the sequel." Now, Rob, I'm going to admit something. I was not the biggest fan of the first Attack the Block. Okay. And maybe a little bit of that was because I was a little bit late to the party compared to everybody else. Like, people had been raving about it for a good month before I saw it. And all I kept hearing about was just how unbelievably phenomenal the movie was. So my expectations were kind of sky high. It also didn't help that I could barely understand what was being said in the movie. I had some thick English accents. I mean, that was the worst that I just did. I did cover it, but I'm just admitting, I had a very, very difficult time at parts understanding the dialogue. It was when I went back and watched it again with subtitles at one point that I appreciated a little bit more. I liked it. I mean, I like Attack the Block. I don't put it on that same cult all-time classic status that a lot of my friends do, but it is beloved, Rob. Like, people who have watched this movie beloved it.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's been a lot. And of course, it is the movie that really put John Boyega on the stage for a lot of people. And so now they're doing another one. And I'll tell you what, regardless of if the original is one of my favorites or not, I love when a property that has a really passionate fan base gets to get, a treat. And they wanted, a lot of people have been wanting Attack the Block 2. Cornish is coming back. Boyega's coming back. There's a lot of people very happy about this, and that's pretty cool. Anyway, Rob, like I said, I never thought this day would come. I thought too much time had passed, but here we are. Did you ever think we would get an Attack the Block 2, and what are your feelings right now that it's been announced?
Well, first of all, I mean, I really liked Attack the Block. I mean, I kind of put it in the same as Tremors.
Right.
I don't know why.
I love Tremors.
I mean, I love Tremors, but I don't think Tremors is necessarily genius, but I love it. I love it the way I love Arachnophobia.
Right.
And Attack the Block I liked it a lot. I thought it was great, but I mean, I always feel after 10 years are we clamoring for Attack the Block? But I've liked Joe Cornish as a filmmaker. I really liked the movie he made, the Kid King Arthur movie.
Oh, yeah.
The Kid and the King. I like that film. I mean, I really like Joe Cornish's sensibilities.
Patrick Stewart was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And I think that I really like genre filmmakers that stick to making genre films. Not that they have to be relegated into making science fiction, horror, and fantasy, but I think I like Joe Cornish's sensibility. And that was one of the things about Attack the Block that I really like. The premise, like, okay, what would happen if this is where you have an alien infestation or problem in these tenement buildings? What are you going to do? And it was sort of that working class. It's the same way that Alien was sort of a working class movie. And I just loved seeing like these people that are pretty much ill-equipped to deal with this threat, but then they have to, using the surroundings they have and what they know. And I find that premise irresistible. So bring it on.
Question is, guys, for you, what do you think about this news? Maybe you've never even seen Attack the Block. I mean, not everybody's seen it. If you have seen it, are you excited that they're coming back? Do you maybe thought they should have left it alone? What do you guys think about this right now? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's get into main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Edwin Marks, who writes, "It's all about family and living life at a quarter mile at a time, John. I was excited to see you guys got to see Fast 9. It's still Monday night, so I haven't seen the first reactions yet. I think they come out at 3 a.m. That is when the first reactions were able to drop last night, 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what did you guys think? Was the return of Han glorious? Tell us." All right, guys. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Edwin. All right, so here's the thing. Just so you guys can understand the context here. So yes, yesterday, Rob and myself and Ann and our buddy Cliff got to go and see Fast 9 yesterday. You guys know I've been very excited for Fast 9. I was not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise for 1, 2, and 3. I got on board with 4, fell in love with it in 5, and I've been totally enjoying the ride ever since, Rob. 5, 6, 7, 8 was a step down, but I personally still had a lot of fun with 8. I still enjoyed 8. I'm a big fan of Vin Diesel, and right now with us just coming out of our movie hibernation, being able to get back in the movie theaters again, it was great. Me, Rob, and a couple of Ann's friends, we went out to dinner first, had some dinner, then went over to the movie theater. It was just so great to get back to that sort of a pattern. So understanding that and my love of it, you have to know my mindset going into Fast 9. I'm really super stoked. Now, here's the context, though. We are under a review embargo, which means Rob and I cannot go into any sort of depth or detail or explanation about things in the movie or our feelings on the movie. We are embargoed until mid-June. We can't talk about the movie in any sort of depth until mid-June. Some of you may notice, though, that there are a couple of reviews floating around out there, like on Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, things like that. So how come they get to post their reviews if, the embargo is still up? Well, here's the catch. Fast 9 doesn't open here until the end of June, but it's opening in other countries around the world today or tomorrow, something like this week. It's opening around the country. So outlets that have bureaus in those countries that it's opening up already, they get to write their reviews. The rest of us who got to see it last night have to wait. And you know what? That's fair. I have no problem with review embargoes because they're doing us the honor of letting us see the film early. And in exchange, we agree to hold off on those reviews till a certain date. It's a totally fair exchange. I have no complaints about it whatsoever. However, there are two different embargoes these days. There's the full review embargo, and then there's the social media embargo, which they did lift last night at midnight Pacific Standard Time, 3 a.m. And I will now read to you my tweet, Rob, that I put out coming out of Fast 9, which I was super excited about. Here was my tweet. I tweeted the following when I came out of the theater and posted up at midnight. My Fast 9 reaction. The Fast and Furious movies 4 through 8 work well because they embrace the ridiculousness. But at some point, it's just way too much. The couple of moments of laughs and charm are totally overwhelmed by the eye-rolling nonsense. It is the worst Fast and Furious movie to date. And you know what? I thought about that a little bit, Rob, when I said that. When I said to myself, this is the worst Fast and Furious movie so far, I thought, maybe that's just how I'm reacting right now. Let me go home, think about it. And I woke up Ann and I talked about it the whole drive home. We talked about it sitting around the fire pit last night, just kept talking about it. And we kept talking about just how mind-numbingly ridiculous it is. And it's like, I woke up this morning and nope, this is the worst one. Now, remember, I say that as somebody who I got on board with Fast and Furious because it started to change its identity and it started to own and really embrace the ridiculous, ludicrous nonsense. No pun intended for ludicrous, but the ludicrous nonsense of it, right? That's kind of why I got on board with Fast and Furious. But there can be absolutely, undisputedly too much. Because, Rob, when you sit and roll your eyes every 10 seconds, it gets to be exhausting. And again, we can't go into much, but I do, Rob, you and I both came across the Hollywood Reporter's review. I want to read you guys a little bit of the Hollywood Reporter review because I think they nail a lot of it. And let me see if I can make this a little more visible for you guys. They start off the review by writing this. Is it too far-fetched to hope that the Fast and Furious movies could go back to being about hot cars, burning rubber, and the bonding that occurs somewhere around the intersection of cops and robbers? This is a series that began with a crew of not-so-bad crooks stealing shipments of DVD players. Now, in Justin Lin's F9, they're literally shooting cars into space. Unless Fast 10 involves time travel, it's hard to see how the franchise could top itself, and based on the often dull, always bloated results here, it seems foolish to try. At their best, these later Save the World fast flicks allowed viewers to thrill to stunts even as they guffawed at their absurdity. But in F9's would-be showstoppers, the thrills are mostly AWOL or the feats are simply too idiotic to embrace even in a guilty way. When I read that, I'm like, yeah, that's let me read that last part again, because again, this guy, whoever's writing this, understands that Fast and the Furious works because it embraces the ridiculous, but there is a line about how much you should do it. Let's read this last part again here. All right. At their best, these later Save the World fast flicks allowed viewers to thrill to stunts even as they guffawed at their absurdity, like jumping from one building to another. Yeah, it was absurd, but it was like in the midst of the thrill. It's great. I loved it. It was whatever. But in Fast Nine's would-be showstoppers, the thrills are mostly AWOL, or the feats are simply too idiotic to embrace, even guiltily. Rob, for me, echoing just on what the Hollywood Reporter said, and again, I'm not going to talk about anything else about the movie. I'm just echoing what the Hollywood Reporter said and what I said in my tweet. When every 30 to 45 seconds, you find yourself like exhaustingly going, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like they were going gangbusters. To me, it flops hard. I just thought it was so idiotic and so outlandish what they were doing constantly and trying to pass it off as potentially realistic that I never could get into a groove of just watching and trying to appreciate the movie. And when it's so stupid, it robs you of any sense of the fun. Like, there are ridiculous things that happen in Godzilla versus Kong, and there are ridiculous things that happen in Mortal Kombat, and there are ridiculous things that happen in Army of the Dead. But the thing is, when they happen, you can just kind of embrace it because not another completely so utterly ridiculous thing happens just 15 seconds later. And I just found myself getting exhausted by it. Again, we'll go more into all the individual things. I wish I could talk more about the individual things that led me to feeling this way, but we are under embargo, so I don't want to do that. So again, I'm just going to read my tweet one more time. My F9 reaction: the Fast movies 4 through 8 work well because they embrace the ridiculousness, but at some point it's way too much. The couple of moments of laughs and charm are totally overwhelmed by the eye-rolling nonsense. It's the worst Fast and Furious movie to date. So that is my reaction. We'll go full review in about a month or so. Rob, I still consider myself a fan of this franchise. It hit a bump in the road. Like, it to me, I will still look forward to Fast 10. I'm still excited about Hobbs and Shaw 2. I love this Fast and the Furious world movie now, or this Fast and Furious movie world now. Didn't like this one, but I'll just look forward to the next one. Rob, if you were to compose a tweet, because again, we have to limit our things to that, but what is your 140 character tweet reaction to Fast 9?
I'll read it, John.
Let's read it.
Now, I want to preface this by saying I have adored this franchise. I was excited to see this movie. Obviously, I wanted to see justice for Han. But here's the first tweet that I made. Fast and Furious 9 jumped the shark across a chasm wider than the Grand Canyon. It's the Game of Thrones season 8 of the franchise, dispensing with any shred of verisimilitude to instead pander to some wrong-headed wink-wink embrace of the ridiculousness of the franchise. That's my tweets.
Pretty much.
And I have to say, my philosophy behind a great action scene is it must have some tether to the real world and real world physics, because the whole reason action scenes work is that we know as human beings what it's like to live in the real world. So if we're driving down a freeway, at 65 miles an hour or whatever, with cars around us, we know what that's like. We know how perilous that can be. And if you go back to I love Tokyo Drift. The action in that movie, literally, as I was talking to you earlier, guys are drifting through a parking structure. And it's exciting. And you're watching it because you know how dangerous, how close they're coming to smashing their car. And indeed, when Han gives Lucas Black one of his cars to drift in, and he doesn't know how to do it, part of the fun of that sequence is he smashes that car to all hell. And that was one of the things about the original Tokyo Drift films, I think, all the way up to my beloved Fast 5, because the action remains tethered to reality. Like when they steal these cars from a train, they literally pull a train heist in Fast 5. It works because it's believable. And, you think about great action scenes like Spielberg. When he's directing the truck chase in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he sets up an obstacle. Indiana Jones surmounts that obstacle, and you're breathless. And then there's a bigger obstacle, and it builds on that. But the great action scenes of all time rely on Terminator 2. When a semi-truck flies off of a bridge into the LA River to chase John Connor on the back of a motorcycle, you believe it. You're like, oh my God, the T-1000 actually jumped into the LA River in a semi, and how are they going to get away on this little motorcycle? And it's the fact that you understand how perilous the situation is for John Connor, who's going to get run over by this semi, makes it exciting. In Fast 9, all of that is thrown out the window.
Yeah, now don't go into too much detail about 9.
No, but I'm just saying the idea of any kind of tethering action to the real world is dispensed with. And if that's the case, as an audience member, I can't feel anything because there's no real peril there. I know at any point in time, whatever needs to happen is going to happen. So I don't feel breathless with action. And I think that's happening a lot in movies today, because now with computer, when you can do a CG assist on any physical effect, well, when you choose to do that, then I mean, give me like Bullet, the car chase in 1968, Steve McQueen driving through San Francisco. The reason that was such a great car chase, or To Live and Die in L.A., when they drive, when Richard Chance, played by William Peterson, drives the wrong way on the freeway, you're like, oh my God, we know what that. Can you imagine, John, driving the wrong way on an L.A. freeway when cars are coming at you at 65 miles an hour? How would you? I can't think of anything scarier than that. And they played it that way, and that's why the action scene works, because you're going, oh my God. But in this movie, I feel, and with the entire franchise as a whole, since Fast 5, in Fast 6, the endless runway, Fast 7, jumping out. I know it's fun, but still jumping from building to building. In Fast 8, you're outrunning torpedoes on the ice. You've just dispensed, and your action scenes, while I understand you have to make them more and more outlandish, but in untethering them from any reality, I just sit there and go, I don't care, because there's no real threat. And that bums me out, because the franchise worked because you just got to see great car chases. Driving fast on city streets is its own reward. And I feel that Fast 5 was the height of this franchise because it was right at the edge, carrying that vault around, smashing through the streets. It was right on the edge of it, just about strained credulity, but it didn't. It was still believable enough, and I loved it. But after that, I feel the series has become untethered from reality, and now it's literally gone into orbit of non-belief.
Let's go. I want to go back for a second and read a little bit more from the Hollywood Reporter review of this, because they were clear to give a full review. So let's just read what their words are here. He goes, see, for instance, the sequence in which our heroes are being pursued across a minefield. They don't get killed because they're just too damn fast for exploding mines to injure them. Towards a rickety rope bridge, all the stuff we saw in the trailers, a rickety rope bridge. One side of the bridge breaks when the first car has just started across it, but the car gets to the other side by following the same laws of physics that govern Coyote and the Roadrunner cartoons. Then, Vin Diesel's Dom, seeing that a single suspension strand remains, this is also in one of the trailers, Vin Diesel's Dom, seeing that a single suspension strand remains of what used to be a bridge, somehow jumps his car onto the post, holding that stand, knocks it free from the ground, and Tarzans across the chasm to land on the other side. For a series with a main character, played by Ludacris, who routinely urges his buddies to trust in the math and trust physics because numbers don't lie, Fast really insults any viewer who feels the same way. Fans may remember in the last film the EMP weapon that could knock out every bit of electronics in a high-security military facility while somehow not interfering with the video monitor sitting right next to it. This time around, our heroes head into a chase with an array of electromagnetics. Again, this is all in the trailer. This time around, our heroes head into a chase with arrays of electromagnetics in their trunks that are powerful enough to pull heavy trucks across lanes of traffic or even flip an armored car the size of a train car end over end. But somehow those same magnets have no effect on the axles, gear shifts, and made in the 70s steel frame of the muscle cars carrying them. Now listen, Listen, all I'm going to say is I think the Hollywood Reporter is being kind of generous. Now, listen, it should also be pointed out here that out of all the reactions and people I talked to afterwards who saw it, there seems to be some mix. Like a lot of the people that I spoke to that saw it last night were like, but there were also a bunch of people, Rob, that just had fun with it. And you know me, I
Right.
love going into movies like Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Army of the Dead, and just having fun. But again, going back to my Twitter, to my tweet, I wasn't able to do that with this one, but I like the way the Hollywood Reporter puts it out. Anyway, guys, but do know there are reactions out there. There are people who enjoyed it. Like the way we're talking is like 0 people on the planet are going to like it. The reality is, just because we didn't like it, clearly there are a bunch of people who saw it last night that did like it as well. So, you're going to have to go see it. It is a big bombastic movie, so you should go to see it anyway. You guys go see it and make up your own minds for yourselves. I'm just telling you the reaction we had and reading you like one of the reviews that came out in the Hollywood Reporter. But check it out when it comes out and let me know what you guys thought of it. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think about all that? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that down, let's now move on and start taking your live questions. Once again, if you want to fire in a live comment or question for the show, simply use the tip link that's down in the description of this video. Click on it there, or you could enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Okay, guys, let's get over to those questions of yours. And we're going to start things off here with Let's Make Things Dark, who writes, in Citizen Kane, how did that one guy know what Kane's final words were? That's even though he was old of age. Did someone poison Kane because no one seemed distressed when they found him laying there lifeless? Am I overthinking it? I think you're overthinking. I've never really thought about that, Rob.
Right.
I'm not one of these guys who have watched Citizen Kane like 18 times. I've watched it like 3 times. I don't think Citizen Kane is like one of the top 10 greatest movies of all time, but there are a lot of cinephiles that think it's like the greatest achievement ever in film. But I don't know. How would you address that? Let me read it again. Let me read what he said here again. In Citizen Kane, how did that one guy know what Kane's final words were? Even though he was old of age, did someone poison Kane because no one seemed distressed when they found him laying there lifeless? Am I overthinking it? How would you respond to that, Rob?
Well, I mean, I've always thought I'm a huge Citizen Kane fan, and I've probably watched that movie 50 times, but I just assumed that his nurse heard it. I mean, no one's necessarily in the room, but you don't know where his caregiver was. And
Yeah.
maybe, see, here's the thing with things like this in movies, people take things really literally. Like, I didn't see someone actually in the room and he whispers it. He says, Rosebud. Well, there might have been a woman, his caregiver was right outside, or maybe was even in the room. We just don't see her. So I just assume it's one of those movie things that, well, somebody heard it because the movie hinges on that was his last word. All the reporters know it. So in my mind, obviously the nurse heard it, and that's never bothered me. I know a lot of people lately, you get more and more of that kind of thing where people are like, well, what about this? But I while it's a good point that we don't see somebody there, it doesn't mean someone didn't overhear it, that we
Right.
just didn't see in the film.
Right. Good point. All right. Next up, we've got Michael Wolf, who writes, wait, so what will happen to HBO Max as a streaming service? Is that all going over to Discovery Plus? So I'll have to pay for another streaming service. Well, I mean, what ultimately will happen now that Discovery has acquired Warner Media from AT&T? And by the way, it's still probably a year until it all gets executed and finalized. They've reached the agreement. What is going to be happening is that now that Discovery has purchased Warner Media from AT&T, they are going to merge those two, Warner Media and Discovery, into one brand new company. I suspect, Rob. Now, somebody asked me after you left the show yesterday, do I think they're going to have like 3 or 4 different streaming services? Do I think they're going to have one big streaming service? Are they going to keep the same names? Here's what my very, very early guess is. My very early guess is this. I believe they're going to go all in on one streaming service.
Yep, I do too.
And it will be based around HBO Max. And I think they're going to merge all the Discovery Plus stuff into it. And like, seriously, the success that network has had is unbelievable. I thought it was a stupid idea, but they've made it incredibly successful. I think they're going to make one very appealing, broad-ranging streaming service. And I think they're going to change the name. I don't think it's going to be called HBO Max anymore. I think it'll be called, Discover Warner or Warner Brothers Premium. Somebody wrote in on the show yesterday, how about Warner Brothers Premium? And I'm like, that's not bad, but I do think they're going to give this company a new name. I think they're going to go all in on one. But there's many, many good arguments, Rob, for why they may still want to piece it out into 3 or 4 different streaming services. I'm just guessing they're going to go with the one. How do you think they're going to do it?
Well, I think they're just going to go with the one too, which is kind of the point of all of this. The whole point of having Discovery is that they already have a worldwide footprint as far as streaming goes now. And that's something that HBO Max doesn't have. And that's what they called it in all those articles, that they're complementary brands. HBO Max doesn't have things like CNN. It doesn't have a lot of reality programming. And so Discovery's programming is adding to what HBO Max already has. And they have that worldwide footprint and the subscribers that you mentioned yesterday. So I think they're going to make one streaming service. I hope they use the Warner Brothers name. I suggested, calling it the new series Warner Infinite.
I like this. Somebody in the live chat who just put it. Nicholas Walker put in the live chat Warner Max. I don't mind that. It's got the some people say HBO Discovery. I think you got to have the Warner names in there. Warner Disco. Justin Danford is saying Warner Disco. HBO Warner. Warner the Bro. Warner Max is good.
I like Warner Max too, if that's what you're going to do.
I don't mind Warner Max. Yeah. Or Warner Brothers Premium, Warner Max.
Warner Max has a cool ring to it. It sounds cool.
I don't mind that either. A lot of people are also saying HBO Warner. That's not terrible either. A few other people are saying Warner Max now too. Discovery Max. I think you got to have Warner Brothers name. There's a lot of potential there. But yeah, so we'll see. But we do think it's probably will end up being one service. But we don't know that. This is still really, really early. We'll see what their plans are going to be as we get closer to it. All right, next up, Otto writes, was hyped for Snake Eyes, but that trailer sucked. What was bad about it? I hate when movies take a badass looking mysterious character and ruin him by not putting him in costume for most of the movie so they can promote the actor. I want to watch Snake Eyes, not just some dude. Well, I'm going to push back on this a little bit, Otto. So you're basically saying you're mad because they didn't do something you wanted them to do. Like you're basing, if I'm understanding you right, you're basing your whole thing on the fact that they didn't put the mask on. They showed the mask. I am personally thrilled they're going in this direction. You can just tell a better story with a character who you can see and who talks. Now, look, not that it can't work the other way around. When you look at Carl Urban in Judge Dredd, right? Where he had, half his face covered. He could still do a lot of acting with his mouth and his jaw. But for most of that movie, he had that helmet on, even though you could still see his mouth and his jaw, but he was a speaking character. He talked, he could tell narrative and story and, all that kind of stuff. I find the hardcore devotees always want things as pure as whatever, but sometimes that's not what would work best for a movie. And I personally thought the trailer was really fun. I didn't think there was a ton there to love because it's just a little tease, but I also didn't think there was anything to dislike either. And I think making Snake Eyes an actually fleshed out character is going to be better for the movie. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out when the movie comes out, but I think it's a good move for them. By the way, Working Class Hero sends in a super chat badge. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate that. I know, Rob, what did you think about that? That is a big point of discussion in the other mediums. Snake Eyes always has his face covered and things like that. Here he doesn't. I like the move, but what do you think?
Well, the fact is I get, like, when you're watching, G.I. Joe and on an animated show, it's okay to have a character with a mask on all the time, or if you're reading the Larry Hama comic book or something. But with a movie, you really need to meet sort of the man under the mask. Movies are about people. And I don't know if we're seeing the beginnings of Snake Eyes or how he ended up joining the team, becoming who he is. I understand that, but I think movies are different than other mediums. And we've seen Snake Eyes portrayed before, it was Ray Park who played Snake Eyes.
Darth Maul himself.
I would like to have seen more of Ray Park out of the helmet, and I get it, but look, they're selling Henry Golding here. They're paying for Henry Golding. They're building this franchise now around him. They're relaunching the whole GI Joe franchise using him, and they've got to move beyond the hardcore fan audience to get everyone else to come in. Like all the girls that might have swooned over him when they saw Crazy Rich Asians, they want some of that. Come on in and see your handsome Henry Golding, one of the most debonair actors work. He's like the Cary Grant of Britain now, I mean, we want to see that guy. And the fact that he can wield a sword and kick some ass, I mean, you're going to get more people in the seats seeing Henry Golding than if you're just seeing Snake Eyes.
And again, for me, even more importantly, is it opens the avenue for a lot better storytelling. You can just do a lot more. And by the way, remember, this is an origin story. We may end up with him, a couple of films in the more traditional role of always in the mask for some reason and, never speaking. But I don't know. We'll see where they go. All right, let's keep moving on here. An anonymous viewer writes, I haven't been on the channel lately. Life changes. Kid got hospitalized. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. Got COVID. Dude, man, you just got punched on the left side of the face than the right. Working, Best Buy, never closed. But happy movies are back. After 8 movies, Nobody is number 1 of 2021 so far. Best thing, taking my son first time to the movies. Wednesday became our AMC movie night. That is, I love hearing stuff like that. When, family creates a tradition and stuff like that. I love that. And listen, Nobody, man, I've been thinking about it more. Nobody might be my favorite one of the year so far. Nobody is so good. It caught me so by surprise. I thought it was just going to be a very, very simple, hopefully fun, just little actioneer. But it was so much fun. And Bob Odenkirk is so natural in that role. I never thought he would be, but he is. And it's really great. And I'm glad you guys were able to share that, Anonymous. Thanks for sending that in, man. All right, next up, Jesse writes, 1 of 3. In the case of Those Who Wish Me Dead, while light on story, I had a good time with it. It's nowhere near the level of Sheridan's other works, but I wouldn't call this his bad day at the office. Maybe just his slow day at the office, if that makes sense. I feel like he thrives at directing simpler stories like Wind River, an FBI agent and a hunter track a killer, and Hell on or High Water, 2 brothers rob banks. I feel like this film had too many things going on, from Angelina's backstory to what's going on with the kid, to Bernthal and his wife, to the bad guys, and then the wildfire on top of all of that. It just felt too crowded to me, but I'd still recommend the watch. Thanks for sending that in, Jesse. And by the way, Lizzie Venus sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks, Lizzie. Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, I will still classify this as a bad day at the office for him. I didn't think the movie was terrible, but did you get around to watching it, Rob? For those
no, not yet, but I still am going to check it out.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Last night we went and saw Fast 9.
Yeah, but you should sit down and check it out at some point. But I thought that I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it's difficult to really express why I feel negatively towards this movie without being able to give away specific points in the film. But there was just so much that was so easily coincidental. There was so much that was too unbelievable. And then they did, you're right, Justin. They did try to cram in a little bit too much. I think it was a poor movie. Not a dumpster fire, not hot garbage, not like Thunder Force or anything like that. But yeah, I thought at the end of the day, it was actually a pretty poor movie, unfortunately. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I always love it when people enjoy the movies they watch, dude, even if I didn't. All right. Alan Watt writes, hey, John. Sorry for my misspelling earlier. I meant to say you could see everyone's opinion of him changing. I can't remember which movie we were talking about. The soldiers and Worthington's character, now we're realizing Garfield's character was a true hero. I get emotional feels watching it every time. That's where we were talking about Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah, Rob, somebody was writing in yesterday about Hacksaw Ridge and like just some of the, Andrew Garfield was so good in that movie. And
so good.
I was saying it wasn't my pick to win Best Picture that year, but it was one of those movies that if they had read the Best Picture of the year goes to Hacksaw Ridge, I would have had 0 complaints. Like none. It wasn't my pick, but it'd be like, yep, that movie was effing awesome. It could totally see it as winning Best Picture. And Andrew Garfield was magnificent in it. Like he was so good. Where is Andrew Garfield? Like why? Like he's doing these little a few Hulu things here and there. I don't know why he's not doing more. Anyway,
It's because he's in Spider-Man No Way Home.
so the rumor continues. All right, next up, we've got Jay Bling who writes, which did you dislike more, Those Who Wish Me Dead or Without Remorse? Without Remorse, probably. I asked because you said you think the former is the worst project Taylor Sheridan has done, but I think you may have forgotten that he also wrote the latter as well. Yeah, but he didn't direct it. I would have to say that let's put it this way, Rob. I didn't regret watching Those Who Wish Me Dead. It was
right.
It was kind of a poor movie, but I don't regret watching it. You know, it's a Taylor Sheridan movie. It's got its upsides and blah, blah, blah. Without Remorse, though, I regretted wasting my time watching it. And I love Michael B. Jordan. And I love the Tom Clancy verse. But I just thought it was so bad. So I'm going to have to say, out of those two, I'm going to say Without Remorse. I can't remember, Rob, if you had a chance to watch Without Remorse yet.
Yes, I have now. And, you know, as a lover of the Tom Clancy books, I failed to understand what they were trying to achieve. I mean, I know it's like they're setting up, they're going to do Rainbow Six, but I'm a fan of those books. I'm a fan of Tom Clancy's work, and I don't know what they hoped to do with this. They dispensed with so much of the book, and I just was perplexed by it. I mean, I love Michael B. Jordan, but I wish the movie was closer to the subject matter that they were adapting.
Yeah, I get that. All right, next up, Ben Rayner writes, do you think HBO Max and Discovery Plus will merge or continue to be two different services? I hope HBO Max continues. That might be my favorite streaming service. Listen, I still think HBO Max is the gold standard when it comes to creating premium television. I still think they are the gold standard. Again, our guess right now is that they were going to form one new service that will be built upon the framework of HBO Max. I think they're going to merge in the Discovery content. Again, this is not based on any actual information. This is just me speculating. But I think what makes most sense is to rebrand HBO Max, merge in the Discovery content, and then have them move forward as this much deeper, much broader, much richer individual streaming service. But they very well still could go with 2 or 3 or 4 individual streaming services. I would kind of like to see it all under one roof. I just feel that would also give us as consumers more value if it was all just under one roof. So there's that. All right. Thanks for that, Ben. Next up, Willow writes, happy belated birthday to Pat Campea. It was my dad's birthday the other day. It was my dad's birthday yesterday, of course. Happy belated birthday to Pat Campea. Does he share in your love of movies? And if so, what is his favorite film? P.S. I don't like lobsters either. I'm glad to find out that I'm not the only one. Yeah, I'm not a lobster fan. I don't lobster. No, my dad isn't the big cinephile. My dad's not a big cinephile. His favorite movies are, well, first of all, as far as I know, his all-time favorite movie is Old Yeller. I still think, I mean, at least that was his all-time favorite movie when I was a kid. When I was a kid, his all-time favorite movie was Old Yeller. I know he loves everything Sherlock Holmes. I know he loves Sherlock Holmes. But yeah, generally speaking, he's not a big cinephile. You know, I have a tradition, Rob, when Ann and I go back to Canada, we take, my parents out and my siblings as well. We go out for a night at the movies. And I remember we went to go see, the last movie I saw with them was Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Star Wars, The Last Jedi. And my dad loved it. He is like, you know what I think it was? I think it was because of cause my dad's a big fan of the old Westerns. Like the old Westerns was the stuff my dad grew up watching. And I think maybe because there were some overtones of the old Western in that. So I don't know. So you kind of got a big kick out of that, but yep. And I'm not a fan of lobster either, Willow. All right. Next up, Caleb writes, Do you think Toby Emmerich stays on at Warner Brothers Pictures with the new merger? No, I don't. Rumors said he was upset that he was getting sidelined by HBO Max and AT&T execs. I sure hope so. He's a brilliant studio head, in my opinion. Do you think he's done a good job running Warner Brothers? It's so difficult to say, Rob, because, you know, he had a boss as well. He had people overseeing him and the bosses as well. And we talked about Jason Kilar yesterday, and
Yeah.
a lot of listen, there's just no getting around. As much as Warner Brothers has put out some content that I've really liked over the last couple of years, the reality is they've had so many missteps. Like, so many missteps. They've burned bridges with talent. They botched the launch of their HBO streaming service. They've had a lot of, they've just not known how to handle or deal with, you know, a bunch of controversies that have surrounded their properties. Not that any controversy in public is ever easy to navigate, but they have just bungled how they've handled various controversies, unlike some other studios that handle them better. And, you know, when stuff like that happens, you need to look at the top of the food chain, right? You need to look at the top of the food chain because, like, again, I can only speak from my own personal experience, but like when I was running teams of 15, 20, 30 people, whether it was at AMC or Collider, guess what? When something went wrong, that's on me. When something wouldn't work, that was my responsibility. When something failed, that's my responsibility. It doesn't matter if, well, I wasn't the host of that show and I wasn't the one doing this. It doesn't matter. I was in charge. And if anything doesn't work, that's on me. And I either can correct it or leave. You know, it's just that thing. And so when you look at it, look, there's no denying, Rob, Toby Emmerich has had some major achievements in his career. He has done some very good, very big, very impressive things, but it's when you're sitting in the chair, a lot of the blame is going to be pointed at you. So I don't think he's going to survive the merger. I really don't. I don't think he's going to survive this merger. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I don't think he's going to either. I mean, what's happening is so monumental and they're creating a whole new entity that I don't think they're going to want to keep anybody. I think they're going to want, I mean, maybe that's not true, but I think the people at the top, they need real change, and that's what they're looking to do. So yeah. That's what I think is going to happen. I think that people are going to, change is coming, John, whether they want it or not.
And hopefully it'll all be for the best. Anyway, Ryan Lohner writes, 1 to 2. I finally saw Sound of Metal. That's a really good movie. Riz Ahmed, I mean, solid nomination. He deserved the nomination. I have some permanent hearing damage, and this movie is my nightmare. The early scenes where he first starts losing sound freaked me out so much that I had to turn it off for a while because that's exactly what happens. Luckily, I was able to finish it later and appreciate just how great the movie and Riz Ahmed, who I've only known from Rogue One, are. Yeah, Rob, and you know, a lot of different movies will have like a scene that resonates with you, sticks with you, haunts you a little bit. And I remember one of the first conversations I had with you after seeing it was just that, and the acting was so good. That scene with Riz Ahmed talking to his doctor, where his doctor is basically laying it out. Listen, you're not understanding. You're losing your hearing. That's going to be your life now. I mean, that scene was so, yeah. I just felt it. Like they made you feel it. You know what I mean? It is remarkable. What were your thoughts on Sound of Metal?
It's a wonderful movie. And you know, that's an example of what we were talking about earlier about living in the real world and understanding physics, like driving on a freeway. The idea of, you can't help but in that scene, put yourself in the position of Riz Ahmed when you find out that you're going to lose your hearing. Like, what would that feel like? So we understand the monumental nature of what he's feeling. And he's able to convey, I think, what we all would feel like just in his face, you know, and you're going, oh man, like, I mean, the guy's a musician and he's going to lose his hearing. That's a nightmare. And that's where all of us, even though we've never had the experience, we can put ourselves in the protagonist's place and be like, oh my God. And we know whether Riz Ahmed's acting in that situation is good or not, because we know how we would feel. And that's one of the things he was able to do, man. I mean, it was like you totally believed his reaction and how horrified and what the pit in his stomach that must have been there.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it great.
All right, next up, we got Ryan G, who writes, John, I saw Onward with my dad, and after the movie, I talked to him about his passing, about his young baby brother and his dad passing away. That's what I meant, John. Have a great day, Ryan G. Well, I don't remember what the original message was, Ryan, but I remember we were talking about Onward the other day and what a special little animated film it is. It's unfortunate that it came out right as the pandemic was blowing up. And it got lost in the shuffle, but Onward is a really special little movie. Like, not top tier, but a very special little movie with some really good laughs. I mean, anybody who's loved a parent will just love it. So I'm glad. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. All right. Ryan G also writes in, hey, John, what was the movie studio name that got mad at you for? And what was the movie? Not going to talk about that. Not going to reveal that. No problem. There's a reason I didn't mention the studio, so I'm not going to do it now, but thank you for your curiosity. And again, Onward is awesome. All right. Scarecrow Video Shoutout writes, happy belated birthday, Rob, and greetings, John. Hope you all enjoyed F9. We didn't. Spoiler alert. Just inquiring again if you guys got the chance to see The Paper Tigers. No, I have not. It's a feel-good kung fu comedy, though admittedly not as awesome as Shaolin Soccer, but still worth the watch. Cheers. So, Rob, somebody brought up this one the other day. It's a martial arts film, low-budget indie martial arts film that takes place in Seattle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've seen
and I watched the trailer. The trailer looks pretty fun.
It does look fun.
It looks cute. And wasn't that the guy from Karate Kid Part 3? I think
it is, actually.
Yeah, I think he popped up in there too, who's offering to be the next Paper Tiger. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to watch it, but the trailer did intrigue me. I thought it was very charming. I know, Rob, you haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I don't know, as the guy from Seattle, does that increase your excitement to see it?
I love seeing movies in Seattle, especially if they're actually shot there as opposed to Vancouver, because so often they're not shot in Seattle, but I definitely want to see it.
All right, next up, we've got Starfish, who writes, hey, John, did you watch Domina first episode? No, I have not. First episodes were okay, but when Augustus becomes emperor, everything goes Machiavellian, not historically accurate or as good as I, Claudius. Like the intrigue / people plotting, actors who play Tiberius is good, ended up wanting more. Yeah, I have not watched any of it yet, although I am a sucker for anything that has to do with old Rome. Whether it's, Gladiator or anything, I'm always a sucker for that stuff. But here's the thing, Starfish. To me, unless something is porting itself to be historically accurate, I don't need these stories to be historically accurate. I didn't go to the movies to see a history lesson, unless I'm going to a movie specifically because it ports itself to be a really great history lesson and I'm in the mood for that and I want to learn that. But, like, for instance, Rob, Inglourious Bastards. There is a generation of young people in America who actually today think that's how Hitler died because of Inglourious Bastards. But listen, obviously they played with history. I don't mind. Listen, I always say this and people disagree with me, but I still say it's completely true. The number one job of a filmmaker is not to be as historically accurate as possible or to stay as true as possible to the comic book or stay as true as possible to the book. That's not the main job of a director or filmmaker. The main job of a director and filmmaker is to make the best movie possible. And if you want to play a little bit with historical facts, go for it. As long as you're not pretending to come and see the actual true events that happened in 1970. Like, as long as you're not doing that, I'm going to a movie to be entertained. And if you want to take liberties, take liberties. I don't know, Rob, how do you feel about that?
Well, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, by the way, bringing up I, Claudius, I just want to say that I loved anybody who's bringing up I, Claudius these days. Thank God. But yeah, I mean, when you're watching a movie, it's always, you hear stories about how they've combined characters and no one really knew what was said there. So they had to make up all the dialogue and all that. I honestly don't have a problem with that in the context of movies because I know that I'm watching a film and I don't necessarily expect a movie to be 100% accurate because how could it be? And so I always take everything with a grain of salt. But what I do like is this suggestion of real history. So then if I'm really interested in a period or a topic, then I go in and do my own research and read up on it. So I think that's always a good thing.
All right. We move on. Next up, we've got Glenn, who writes, "Hey, John, Netflix will release a new documentary, Baggio, the Divine Ponytail. Do you have any recollection of the Soccer World Cup USA 1994? Yes, I do. Because I'm not a soccer fan, but I will watch the World Cup every year, every 4 years. I'll watch the World Cup whenever it's on. I'll break out the old Italian flag, chant Forza Italia, wrap myself in my Italian flag. And anyway, it brings back so many memories and heartbreaks when Baggio missed that last penalty kick. Was that against, I think that was against Brazil. Maybe it was Germany, but I think it was against Brazil that happened. Anyway, but yeah, like every World Cup, man, that's why the last World Cup was so depressing for me, because there was really nobody for me to cheer for. Italy inexplicably didn't make the World Cup. Canada wasn't in the World Cup. And like even my new adopted home of the States weren't in it. So it's like I had nobody to cheer for, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. But that's me. All right, next up. Paul Mamer writes, "Hey, John and Rob, happy birthday, Rob, by the way. 3 months in, and I'm continuing to love the show." Well, good to have you here, Paul. Thanks for being here. Why break tradition with a less confusing name for the new Discovery and HBO Max service? It should clearly be called Disco Max, which a bunch of people are saying, and launch with Wonder Woman 74. Bring on the filthy with Wonder. I think, listen, but in all seriousness, Paul, I have always agreed with Rob's assertion that it was a mistake. Well, first of all, we all understand that calling the service HBO Max in the first place was a terrible mistake because it just created brand confusion. So, because like so many people, Rob, for months, were still writing in and asking. Months after HBO Max, right? We still have people writing and asking me. So, wait a minute. So, if I have HBO Now, do I have HBO Max? What's it? But I just subscribed to HBO. Is that the same thing? I have HBO Go. Is that? I mean, there's. It was so confusing, and I've always agreed with you, Rob, when you asserted, listen, Warner Brothers is the name with the history, with the pedigree, with the prestige, with the recognizability of it. The name should have had Warner in it. The name should have been in there, and that's why I'm down with something like Warner Max, but I think they will go that route, Rob. I do think they're going to put the Warner name in it, but I don't know. Maybe they'll just call it Discovery Plus Plus. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Thanks for that, Paul. Next up, Paul also writes, "Hello again. With the Golden Globes being returned and plummeting in prestige and value, let's say I give you one In-N-Out burger, which you can then trade in for any Golden Globe trophy to put on your shelf. Who do you take?" I go for Cameron's Titanic director. Ooh, that's a good one. You know what I would probably take, Rob? If I could have a Golden Globe just to put on my shelf, correct me if I'm wrong, but did Jim Carrey not win the Golden Globe for, why am I freezing on the name of his, the one where he's living in a reality show? A Truman Show.
Truman Show. Oh.
Did he not win a Golden Globe for that? Let me look that a whole sec. Jim Carrey, Truman Show, Golden Globe. I think he won that and then wasn't at all wasn't at all nominated for. Yeah, he did. He won Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama. They called Truman Show a drama. Okay. But Ed Harris won Best Supporting Actor. Jim Carrey won Best Actor. It won Best Original Score, and it was nominated for Best Motion Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay on top of that. So, yeah. So, you know what? Because it's Jim Carrey, because he's a good Canadian kid, if I could have one Golden Globe that I got to put on my mantle as a collector's item, I would want Jim Carrey's Golden Globe for Truman Show. If you could have one, Rob, which one would you pick or want to have?
Francis Ford Coppola's Golden Globe for directing The Godfather.
That would be a good one. There's no arguing that. That would be a collector. That would be a collector. All right, let's move on here. Next up, BK Dan writes, "John, with the buyout of MGM to Amazon, do you think that the Stargate IP finally gets a green light for another shot at a TV spot or movie?" Rob, think about it. I honestly think that's why we were talking about this earlier. We said that Stargate title, that Stargate IP, That's fascinating because I'll tell you what, I think a relaunched, rebooted Stargate series produced by Amazon, when you look at the way they handle The Boys and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and things like that, I think a new Stargate, the perfect home for it is an Amazon. I think that is a perfect home for it. And so, yeah, listen, getting MGM just gets them the library. I don't know if it gets them production rights to make more Stargate. I just don't know the answer to that. But if it does, Rob, to me, that's very fascinating. Could you see them doing that?
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's so first of all, there's 10,000 episodes of Stargate already. It's a beloved franchise. Why not bring it back? I think there's a lot there. The mythology is rich and deep. And I don't see any downside, John.
All right. And by the way, BK Dan also sends in a super chat badge. Thanks for that, BK. And we go back over to BK as he writes in, John, the other day I sent you a steer away from a movie. Now, today, I want to steer anybody who's lived under a rock to see the classic from 1986, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And of course, that is a very, very special movie. Everybody knows Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Everybody celebrates Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Everybody still, whenever there's a roll call, everybody still does Bueller. Everybody still does that. But of course, for those in our circles, it's also kind of special because John Schnepp just makes a little quick appearance in Ferris Bueller's Day Off in the big Chicago street dance number. And it is crazy, how well that movie. I mean, even the recent Deadpool movie ended kind of with a Ferris Bueller's Day Off homage in it, right? It's crazy how that movie has just endured. Rob, what are your quick thoughts on Ferris Bueller's? Why does it stand up so well? Why do people still cherish that movie today?
Well, I think first of all, you've got the friendship between Ferris and Cameron. Let my Cameron go. I mean, that everything in that movie, it might be absurd, but it's just, again, it's so much fun to watch. The idea of the very premise of, I'm just not going to go to school today. It's we all wanted that. And when if you're going to not go to school, the way Ferris Bueller takes Sloane and Cameron around Chicago and just has it's just a life affirming, very buoyant, very fun movie. And then of course, Jennifer Grey as the younger sister is going to muck it up, and everything, meeting Charlie Sheen in the police station. I mean, I love the scene when Charlie Sheen goes, there's someone you should talk to. And Jennifer Grey is like, if you mention Ferris Bueller, and he's like, oh, you know him. I mean, there's stuff. That whole movie plays out in my mind when I think about it. I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
All right. Next up, BK Dan, by the way, sent in another super chat badge to lead us into the next question that he sends in, which he writes, John, Wakanda wrote in and referenced a TV show, Small Wonder, a show from 1985 to 1989 featuring a child actor playing a humanoid robot. I just thought I'd write in and tell you the reference it came from. It was from their theme song. Okay, I remember this. So our viewer, Wakanda Forever, wrote in, I guess, the lyrics to an opening theme song, and I did not recognize it at all. And then asked me, John, what's your favorite humanoid robot? And I said, I think his name is Beta in The Last Starfighter. I love that character. I love Beta in The Last Starfighter. But I had no idea. Rob, I have never seen a single thing of Small Wonder. I am never seen a single episode, know almost nothing. I mean, I've heard of it, obviously, but I know almost nothing about it. Never seen an episode. Have you ever seen it?
It's one of the worst television shows I've ever seen. I hated Small Wonder. I thought it was terrible. You couldn't pay me. I have seen one episode, John, and and that was enough. And I watched it because it's about a robot. I'll watch something. I could not believe how inanely stupid it was. But I don't mean to insult anybody that's a huge Small Wonder fan, but let's just say, well, I'm not even. I was going to say there's never been Small Wonder conventions, but you know what? Maybe there have been. I'm not going to say there have never been, because
don't make that assumption, dude.
Yeah, no.
All right, next up, we've got Remy writes, Hey, John and Rob, happy late birthday. I'm so sorry I won't be watching the show live today. Instead, I will be, for the first time in 15 months, sitting in a cinema, probably sobbing, watching the Fellowship of the Ring extended edition. I'm not crying, you're crying. And Rob, we talked a lot during the pandemic, which it's, oh God, that was such a horrible time. But during the heart of the pandemic, we would often say, this doesn't make everything better, but if you're looking for some silver linings in this crap storm, one of the cool things that was happening was, as they were trying to get movie theaters sputteringly back open months and months and months and months ago, people were going and watching some great films that they had never seen before or had never seen the way they're meant to be seen on the big screen. And we were getting people writing and saying, I watched The Godfather for the first time. It's like, dude, I mean, film fandom is a better place when more members of the film fandom have seen The Godfather. All right. We had people who said, oh yeah, I've never watched the Lord of the Rings films. And now they were going to the theater. People who hadn't seen Lord of the Rings ever on the big screen. They discovered it on home video of some sorts, and they went to the theaters to see it on the big screen. And Lord of the Rings was one of the big ones that came along with that. And so, Remy, I'm glad you're taking advantage of that today, and I hope you have as good of a time watching it as we did the first time it came out. All right, next up, Henry Holman writes, hey, John, I've been watching since your AMC spoiler reviews of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Thank you for being around for that long, Henry. As a fan of My Hero Academia, I'm sorry to hear that you didn't like it. Curious to know what you liked/disliked about the show. Thank you, and keep up the great work. Yeah, I got very excited about checking out My Hero Academia because I thought Harley Quinn looked stupid. A lot of people suggested I check it out, so I did, and I loved it. I never watched The Expanse, and then I had enough people, including you, telling me that I really need to check it out, and now I love it. So I had all these people telling me about My Hero Academia, and I watched the first season and a half, and I had to tap out. I was ready to tap out after watching the first season, but I decided to push forward and get about halfway through season 2. And I guess the biggest annoyance to me, the underlying mythology of it about the all for one and one for all and All Might. All Might is a great character, by the way. I love the All Might character. But the thing I just couldn't get around was the main character was so insufferably annoying. I just couldn't watch. Like, every line of dialogue from the main character was yelling at the top of his lungs, crying and whining. Oh no, I'll never be like, and every line from the character, I'm just like, I can't deal with it anymore. It's just so fucking annoying. Even though the underlying mythology was pretty cool, I love the whole thing surrounding All Might. But when you just hate the main character of the show, it's hard to enjoy it. And so I had to bail on My Hero. Did you get into My Hero Academia? Did you watch that much?
Yeah, I like My Hero Academia. I think I've watched the first 2 seasons, and I guess because I've watched a lot of anime, the character traits of the main character seemed to be more of an anime trope, so they didn't bother me as much as they bothered you, but I could see why you would feel that way.
Yeah, I couldn't put up with it anymore. I could not put up with it anymore. Like, when you watch Space Battleship Yamato, you don't have all the kids running around talking like this. Like, I'm like, oh God, come on. What's funny is, because so many of the other characters in it are really great characters, but I don't know. I couldn't get into it. Anyway, I don't know why more can't be like Last Airbender. Anyway. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Henry. Appreciate that, dude. Next up, Suthius writes, roses are red, violets are blue. I consume eggs with ketchup, and you should too. Disgusting. Sugar and spice and everything nice. Pineapple does belong on a delicious pizza slice. If these are not your desire, don't fret. Time has not expired. Have yourself a peanut butter and mayo sandwich. That I do not believe you will admire. These are the questions we ask ourselves for what we crave and what we love. Try these gourmet concoctions for yourselves. Takes a bow. Thank you. Well, first of all, that was very Zeusian. That was very Dr. Zeusian of you, Suthius. Tip of the hat for that. Rob, I mentioned before the other day that if I were ever to run for political office, which I clearly can never do because there's far too many things of me saying saying a lot of different things online that will never allow me to be elected into public office. But if I ever did, I would run on a single platform. Anybody caught putting ketchup on eggs is to be rounded up, and deported to a nice place, Aruba, some nice Jamaican island with the sun surf to enjoy a good life. Just get the hell away from the rest of civilized society. That's all. If you eat ketchup on eggs, you're a disgusting human being. You're just an awful, disgusting, terrible person. You are a bad person. Your parents cry themselves to sleep at how they raised such a monster that would eat ketchup on eggs. Oh, Rob, I'm not kidding, man. I see somebody putting ketchup on eggs, I almost heave. It's like, I don't, but a lot of people do. I don't get it. All right, let's keep going. Next up, Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, as someone who has a love-hate relationship with Fast and Furious due to the over-the-top shenanigans, it's safe to say that after your social media reaction, I'm leaning more towards hate again. This may lead to a pass unless my wife says we going." Well, look, despite what I and some other people are saying, remember that mine is just one opinion, right? Mine is just one point of view. You may see it and you may enjoy it. And I would say this, if you have been even remotely on board with the Fast and Furious franchise, I think you owe it to yourself to give this movie a shot. Now, I ended up hating it, but that doesn't mean you will. And you got to keep in mind too, that there are some other people out there putting out early reactions that they enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm going to give you my honest opinion, but just remember that even when I or Rob or someone, we give you our honest opinions, remember, all of our opinions are going to be different. And just because I'm telling you that I found it completely horrible doesn't automatically mean you will. You may really enjoy it. So if you're at all invested in the Fast and Furious franchise, I say give it a shot. And, maybe you'll walk out and hating as much as I did, or maybe you'll like it. Who knows? But if you're already on board with the franchise, give it a shot. All right. Next up. Let's see. My Comic Planet writes, "Hey, John, thanks for posting the first reactions to Fast 9 last night. I'm not surprised it wasn't good, but what was Universal thinking? Why would they allow people to see the movie so early before release over a month, as if it's as bad as you indicate?" Well, because it opens in other places around the world today.
Right.
Which you and I didn't realize, but like one of the Universal reps came in and said, just, it is opening, and she listed off all these countries that it's already opening in. So since it's already opening in other places around the world, they figured we should at least have the opportunity to see it at this point before everybody else around the world watches it. So, yeah. So it wasn't a matter of them being so confident in it. They were showing it to us a month and a half in advance. It was more of, this is already being screened in other places around the world, so we got to let, the journalists here see it. Yeah. And pretty standard operating procedure though, Rob. But yeah, a lot of other people are seeing it.
It's opening. I just read it's got brisk pre-sales in China, where it's made
the most money. They love Fast and Furious over there.
They really do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this movie's going to make some decent money. I don't think it's going to get a lot of return business. I don't think you're going to get a lot of people going back to see it 2, 3, 4 times, but I think a lot of people are going to be curious to see it. And I think it's going to, especially in its first week, I think it's going to do pretty well. All right. Yep. Next up. Part 2 for My Comic Planet. Aren't they setting themselves up for failure with a month of bad reactions before the movie releases? Normally, a studio would only allow early screenings like this for a movie they have supreme confidence in, that the movie will be great. But again, this is a different situation because they are opening indeed. They did just let us see it like within 24 hours of when it's opening in other places around the world. So kind of a little bit of a different situation there. All right, next up. Ryan Lohner writes, "Wayne Gretzky is now on Masterclass. I wasn't the biggest player in the NHL, and I didn't have the hardest shot, but what I had was a will to want to score." That's amazing. First of all, listen, I know Americans don't like it when this gets said, but it is true. The most dominant professional athlete of all time is Wayne Gretzky. It's not even close. It's not even close. ESPN did this great thing where they broke down charts that showed, guys like whether it was Wilt Chamberlain or Walter Payton or Michael Jordan or whatever, like about their stats and what they were able to do in comparison to their colleagues and their peers at the same time and how much ahead they were of everybody else, right? And it's like, had Michael Jordan and everybody else, or, Walter Payton at the time and everybody else. But when they brought up the statistics of Wayne Gretzky, like Wayne Gretzky was here and everybody else was 15 miles away. Like he was just the most dominant professional athlete to dominate their sport ever. Every single record, Wayne Gretzky has it. Most goals, most assists, most points, most power play goals, most game-winning goals, the only record of note that Wayne Gretzky doesn't hold is most points in a game. That was done by Toronto Maple Leaf captain Darryl Sittler, who one time scored 10 points in a game. Just, I've never seen a game where anybody scored 6 points in a game, but Darryl Sittler in one game against the Boston Bruins scored 10 points in one game. It's the only offensive thing that Gretzky doesn't have. But if you want to learn more about like what a real dominant person in the thing was, you got to look up the numbers on Wayne Gretzky. Like if it wasn't real life, Rob, like if somebody made a movie about this kid who was that dominant in their sport, people would say it's unrealistic because nobody is that much better than everybody else. But Wayne Gretzky was. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. He's not my favorite hockey player either. He's not. My favorite hockey player is Mario Lemieux. My second favorite hockey player is Mike Bossy. My third favorite hockey player of all time is Rick Vive. But Wayne Gretzky's not even in my top 10 favorite, but he's the GOAT, man. He is the GOAT. All right, next up. Ben Rayner writes, hey, John. Where are we at? There we are. Hey, John. I, like you, am into tech videos on YouTube, and it's funny between movie fans and tech fans, I find are very similar. Both categories have expectations and fans build up hype. And when new products don't get met, both fans can get toxic if not careful. Dude, but that is true. That is true. Like, for instance, today, Rob, was the first day that full reviews of the new iMac, the new 24-inch M1 iMac, were allowed to come out. So all the tech, the review embargo lifted today, so blah, blah. And man, you can just see it. It's like a film fandom debate. Some people saying it's the greatest thing ever. No, it sucks, and you're just an Apple fanboy if you think it's good. And oh, you're just a hater if you don't think it's the best thing ever. And but lots of fandoms do that, Rob. Like, look at the video game fandom. Like, the video game fandom is even worse. It's even worse. Or music fandom. Or you name it, sports fandom.
Yeah.
Sports fandom is a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit because it's been around longer. They know how to conduct themselves a little bit better. But the tech stuff too. Because Rob, honestly, the majority of my YouTube viewing time, when I don't go down a rabbit hole of lions hunting zebras, or when I don't go down a rabbit hole of dogs being reunited with their military owner who's been gone for 8 months videos. Don't even get me going about those. When I'm not going down those rabbit holes, the videos I watch more than any other videos on YouTube is always tech stuff. The latest mic reviews, the latest, display reviews, the latest laptop reviews, the latest whatever. I'm always watching tech videos. A lot of, MKBHD, Everyday Dad, Linus, Harris Heller. I watch a lot of tech stuff. Rob, I know you're into tech stuff, but do you have any particular YouTube channels that you like to go to watch tech stuff?
Oh, dude. Well, I have an affinity for automotive YouTube channels. Like, I'm not even I watch people like Supercar Blondie, who's been in Dubai for the last couple months looking at all the most expensive cars in the world, cars I will never own. But I do love all that. And I'll tell you, this is so weird. I've gotten immersed in watch videos on YouTube, high-end watches. Ooh. Like Richard Millier. And I know nothing about high-end watches at all. But like Sylvester Stallone did a video where he's auctioning off his watch collection. And then I'll go watch, there's like this Irish dude that then reviews Sylvester Stallone's watch collection who knows a lot about watches. I don't even know how or why I started into these things, but the automotive, like this guy, the Stradman, who I love to watch just because he's having so much fun with his supercars. But you fall into these things, and of course, I watch a lot of home theater channels like Spare Change, where they talk about different audio video equipment that's been released. So yeah, which is weird because I don't even know why. I don't even wear a watch. So I mean, I've liked watches, but watching these YouTube channels, that's what I love about YouTube, is that just pick whatever weird interest you suddenly want to get into. There's a YouTube community, not just a channel, but a whole community of people, and you can fall down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it goes, tech also extends out to like cameras. Like, so I'll watch,
Yep.
whether there are a bunch of camera guys I love watching and seeing their things. Like even like
Yeah.
Justine, I think she runs a really great YouTube channel as well. Good Canadian kids, Unbox Therapy. Good Canadian kids, they're huge. Unbox Therapy is huge. So yeah, there's a bunch of those that I really do like to watch. All right, next up, BK Dan writes, John, HBO Max still saying Dune coming to HBO Max same day and date. Yep, we covered that, talked about that a little bit earlier in the show there. All right, Brandon writes, okay, John, or hi, John. One piece of content coming out this weekend that no one seems to be talking about, but I think looks cool, is Patton Oswalt's stop-motion MODOK show on Hulu. Have you seen the trailers for it? I saw the first trailer for MODOK.
Yeah.
I have no interest. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Although I love Patton Oswalt. I love him.
I do too, but you don't think it kind of dude,
I don't think it looks
the
good
fact
at
that
all.
they made a MODOK show at all, it makes me want to watch.
But remember, I felt the same way about Harley Quinn before I finally broke down and watched it, and I ended up loving it. So I'd be lying if I said, look, right now I really don't have any interest in this MODOK show. But I'd be lying if I said I'm not at least going to give it a little bit of a try. Because I will, because of what happened with Harley Quinn. So we'll see. I don't have high hopes about it though, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, Rob, we kept you overtime here today, my friend. Still recovering from that screening last night. But in the meantime, you'll be back tomorrow. Where can people follow you and your adventures online?
You can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot for being here, and we will talk to you again tomorrow. Have a good one.
All right, I'll see you later, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Now, we still have some time here. I think we can get through all the questions if we keep up a good pace here. So let's go back on over to your questions. We're going to pick things up here with Jay Bling, who writes, we often say that fans don't know more about content creation than content creators, but we also say that marketing and distribution people don't either. True. So I ask this very facetious, who knows more, fans or marketing? Marketing. Marketing knows more. Marketing have the art of manipulation down to such a science. Down to such a science. I mean, it all depends, though, on which area we're talking about. Like, I don't think marketing people could make a great movie, but fans can't make good movies either. So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think marketing probably is plugged in a little bit more, because here's the thing. Marketing people understand fans really well, because that's all they do. Like, all they do is study the patterns and behaviors of fans. And since they have such a great understanding of fans, not that they obviously don't make some massive gaffes sometimes. We talk about those a lot. I also have to say marketing does. I'll say marketing does. All right. Anyway, next up. Rick Squire writes, 1 of 3. John, last month you kindly recommended 2 excellent Gordon Ramsay restaurants in Vegas. Both were great. I'm glad you went to those, man. Thanks. Having grown up around Brits and British food, the beef Wellington more than measured up. John, I love how opinionated you are. Well, thanks for that, Rick. We'll talk, just so you know, we're talking about, Ramsay has, I think, 4 or 5 restaurants in Vegas. My favorite 2 of his, one is called Steak. That's just the name of the restaurant. It's just called Steak, which is in the Paris Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. And he's got his signature dish there is his beef Wellington, and it is to die for. Like my mouth is watering like crazy right now just thinking about it. His beef Wellington at Steak is to die for. But he's also got another restaurant, a more casual one called Burger, that's in Planet Hollywood. And F me, the burgers in that place are phenomenal. Like the truly artisan gourmet burgers, and they're amazing. So yeah, if you guys get a chance, if you find yourselves out in Vegas looking for a good place to eat, Steak. It's a little expensive. It's a little expensive steak at in Paris Hotel. I think it's $100 for a serving of 2 servings of beef Wellington. I think $100 will get you a shareable 2-serving thing of beef Wellington. Then you got to pay for everything else. So that one's an expensive night out. Burger is much more reasonable. I mean, you're still paying like $18 for a burger, but I am telling you, it's so worth it. I really love this place. Anyway, glad you were able to enjoy that, Rick. Okay, let's keep going. 2 or 3. When I was in Vegas, I kept thinking of how I'd love to hear your thoughts on a lot of cool things I saw. Would you ever consider doing an episode where you answer questions specific to Vegas, your favorite and least favorite casinos, fun and crazy memories, things you'd like to see Vegas do differently, etc.? Of course, I'd only love to see that if you found doing it to be fun and worth your time. Thanks for the great entertainment you always provide us. Well, thank you so much for that, Rick. Listen, I love Vegas. I go to Vegas 6, 7, 8 times a year when there's not a pandemic. I do love Vegas. Play a lot of poker in Vegas, but I mean, I don't have time to do anything else. If I had time to do some more stuff, I would be doing a little bit of sports stuff, but I really have 0 time, which is really unfortunate. Plus, I don't know, even if I did have time to make Vegas videos, I don't think enough of my audience is interested enough in Vegas that I'd actually get any views on those videos. But I'll talk Vegas with you anytime, man. If you want to write in and ask me a question about Vegas, I'd be more than happy to give you my opinion on Vegas, dude. All right. Again, I'm glad you like those restaurants, my friend. All right. Next up, Alan Clark writes, hey guys, okay, we're at my job discussing the merger and what will happen to DC. With half of Discovery possibly changing things and having issues with DC product and comics, maybe they should do a Disney. Give Snyder credit. No. Nope. They tried that and it didn't work. They tried that and they had critical audience and box office disappointments. Yeah, no. They're not going to do that. Just give Disney Snyder creative control of the product, and then watch him bring the Snyder back together the way it was meant to be. Yeah, when it was failing. When it was failing is the way it was meant to be. The way it was failing. Listen, you know me. I think Man of Steel is one of the greatest movies of all time. I think it's one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. That movie is a fucking masterpiece, and I will defend that movie to the day I die. And I like Batman versus Superman. But it doesn't matter that I like these films. It doesn't matter. The reality is they failed with the critics, with the audience, and with their box office. If you want to continue driving the bus into obscurity, then yeah, you keep going with that. And and I don't get why more people didn't love Man of Steel, and I don't get why more people didn't like Batman versus Superman. But the reality is they had miserable reactions from audiences and critics, and they underperformed financially. It just is what it is. So a successful executive, like the new guy taking over this new merger company, he's not about to go out and give things back to Zack Snyder when nothing was working. And again, I wish they did, but they didn't. It's just the numbers. So no, they are not going to be going back to that. They aren't going to be going back to that. All right. BK Dan writes, John Charles Gordon dies, cancer of May 18th. I'll have to go look up into that. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't have time to go and look into it right now. Dragon 10 sends in a super chat badge right now. Thanks for that, man. So I will have to go back and we'll talk about that tomorrow, man. Thanks for giving me the heads up though. All right, next up, Jed Elias writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob, just missed Rob. Really hyped for the Dear Evan Hansen movie, especially after watching In the Heights. Thoughts on the new trailer? I haven't seen the new trailer for it. Also, to everyone watching, movie trailers, love story is really that good. See it if you haven't yet. And yes, I'm going to be having a special announcement about my movie trailers, a love story in the next couple of days. So keep your eyes open for that. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull something up here. while I've got a moment. Yeah, died at 86. Died at 86. And I'm sure we'll bring that up and talk about that tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, dude. All right. Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. And as far as In the Heights goes, Jed, that is, I mean, there's a couple of movies that my wife is dying to see, but my wife is a major, psychotically major Hamilton fan. And so with Lin-Manuel Miranda having In the Heights, she is like, that's all she's asking me every day is like, when should we get tickets to In the Heights? When can we get tickets to In the Heights? And all that kind of stuff. So that one's high on her radar, Jed. All right, next up. We just got a few more to go here, guys. Mel Corzilla writes, I was on the cinema website recently since it's opening tomorrow. Nice. And I saw a new Conjuring movie called The Devil Made Me Do It. Yep, the trailers have been out for a little bit. Set to release later this month. I've never heard about it, and I never saw a trailer, but it was a nice surprise. Did you know? Yeah, the trailer's out. It's a cool trailer. Nice, spooky little trailer. We did talk about it on the show, so it'll be interesting to see how that does. I have been a fan in general, like not super huge fan, but I've been a fan in general of like these Conjuring movies and things like that. The trailer is pretty solid. It's creepy. I'm not a big fan of the title. The title almost makes it sound like it's a spoof movie, so I'm not a big, but you know, the title isn't going to make the movie any better or any worse. It's just, I don't think it's very good marketing to call the movie The Devil Made Me Do It, but whatever. The trailer is good, and I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. All right, let's see here. Heisenberg writes, do you think DC will be separated from Warner Brothers and be made its own thing like DC Studios? No, probably not. After the Discovery Warner Brother merger, I feel giving the carte blanche to Jim Lee will be better for the DCU. I don't. Also, there are better odds post-merger for Justice League 2 and 3 getting made. Thoughts? Yes. Honestly, I think now that we have Warner Media and Warner Brothers and all this kind of stuff, instead of being under the control of a company that sells cell phones for a living, they're now going to be under the direction and control of a successful entertainment media distribution entity. And that right there is better news. Not to mention, under Kilar and Toby and things like that, Warner Brothers has burned all their bridges with their talent. The guy taking over, you know, the CEO of Discovery, who's now going to be the head of this new company, he is known for having excellent talent relationships, that he makes sure he keeps his relationship with talent, the producers, the directors, the on-screen talent. He values those relationships. He keeps an open door of communication with them. They're happy. They love creating content for them. That's the type of guy who can foster that sort of environment that you'd like to have in charge. So I think things in general are going to be very advantageous for DC moving forward. I think they're going to do some good things. Jim Lee, no, I don't want Jim Lee. The comic books are the comic books, the movies are the movies. I don't want Jim Lee in charge of that. But not that that's me trash talking to Jim Lee. Don't misinterpret me. But yeah, but I do think it will stay. I don't think it'll have its own DC studios. I think they are really going to just kind of streamline it a little bit better, have better support structures in place, better overall direction, you know, have decisions be made based on criteria of quality, fan engagement, and success, rather than basing decisions on when will we executives get our big bonuses if we rush this movie and put it out before it's ready to go, you know, like they did at Warner Brothers. I think it's just going to bode very well. I don't know that we'll see the results for a couple of years, but I think this could potentially be very, very good, not just for Warner, but I think this could be very, very good specifically for DC and the different brands under DC. I think Walter Hamada is going to be very happy with this new Discovery Warner Media company. I think Walter Hamada is going to be very happy. So I don't know. We'll see how things go, but I think things look good for them. I really do. Okay. Next up. Jay Bling writes, R.I.P. to Charles Gordon, the star of the first film I saw in the movie theaters, Beethoven. Of course, Midnight Run, Heaven Can Wait, things like that. Yeah, and we'll again, like I said, we'll probably talk a little bit more in depth about him tomorrow. All right, Rick Squire writes, I recently started rewatching The Sopranos, and the series is very rewatchable. It really is. I feel this show was very influenced for shows to come and became a standard setter with regards to high quality storytelling in television series. Your thoughts? Listen, there are a couple of shows that are like hallmark pillars for what modern television is now, right? Like we often talk about how we're kind of living in a golden era right now of like really great television. But we got here based on certain shows' shoulders. And I think two of those shows that may be like the ones we can point to and say, these two shows are the ones that really laid the groundwork and kind of showed the blueprint for what modern excellent television has been. And I think those two shows are The Wire, which a lot of TV files consider maybe to be the greatest television show of all time, but I think is The Wire, and I think it's Sopranos. I think when you look at the way television is done today, with the way a lot of these, especially dramatic shows, are done today, you can clearly see the DNA of shows like The Wire and The Sopranos in all of these shows today. You can clearly see it. You can clearly see that DNA. You can clearly recognize it. And I think, those are two of the shows that really did pave the way for it. All right, next up, we've got Taki75 writes, is the situation with Namor's rights similar to those of Hulk? In a way, it's not identical. I think that's the good words, Taki. Similar, not identical. Anyway, with Namor's rights similar to those of the Hulk, as in Marvel can't make/distribute a movie where Namor is the protagonist, but can use him as a supporting character in someone else's. I believe they do not have the rights to use Namor at all. It's not the same. See, with the Hulk situation is a much cleaner and easy to understand. Marvel has the production rights to the character, but Universal has the distribution rights to the character. So if you put the Hulk in anything that is the Hulk standalone thing, Disney doesn't get to be the distributor, Universal gets to be the distributor, and Marvel's not interested in making a Hulk movie if they can't be their own distributor, which is understandable. But that's clean, easy to understand. The rights issues, I have read so many reports on the status of the rights issues of Namor, and it is so convoluted that even to this day, I do not have a full picture of it. I mean, I've read so much and some contradictory information. I've read so much on the status and the nature and the way the intertangled rights issues with the Namor character. And even I still don't have a really full, clear picture of it. So it is far more. So yeah, it's kind of similar in the way to the Hulk situation, but it's far more convoluted. And I don't know that. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know when we're ever going to see it. I just don't know. Maybe it's something that get resolved in the next few days. Maybe it's going to take 10 more years, but it is a very, very complex situation that I've even when I've had certain people like in studios explain it to me, I go, okay. But really inside, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it all goes. All right. Next up, Military Dogs writes, the reviews for A Quiet Place 2 are out and they are nothing but spectacular. I cannot wait for this movie next week. Dude, 2018, I think the best movie of the year was A Quiet Place. I thought it should have won the Academy Award for Best Picture. I think it was the best movie of the year. And I have been hearing nothing but sparkling, amazing things about Quiet Place 2. I am so sick with anticipation. Yea, verily, I am ill with anticipation to see A Quiet Place 2. I cannot wait to get my ass in the theater and go watch this thing, man. I'm so excited for it. Thanks to that, Military Dogs. All right, Mischievous Gremlin writes, hey, John, how are you today? I'm doing great today, thank you. I was wondering if you saw the trailer to Dr. Death. I'm not much into crime-related shows, but I'm a big Fringe fan, and the fact that Peacock is bringing Joshua Jackson back to TV screens just has me interested in it. Know nothing about it. I like Joshua Jackson. I do. And I did like him in Fringe. Actually, I liked Fringe overall. That was a good, solid cast. The three main people in Fringe. That was a really good, solid cast. The show was interesting. It got a little weaker near the end, but overall, I really did like that show. And I really like Joshua Jackson in it. he's never really been able to get his footing, has he? Like he appears in a couple of really cool things, but he's never really been able to, get to that level. I don't know why, but I think the dude's very talented. So anyway, I know nothing about Dr. Death. I haven't seen anything for it, but I will keep my eyes open for it because I do like Peacock, even though I hate the name. All right, next up. Tasha Yar's Revenge. She died so early in that show. Yo, John, the thing about ketchup and eggs, oh, please, not more of this. The thing about ketchup and eggs is has a very mild flavor. Ketchup makes mild flavor foods taste like ketchup. People who put ketchup on eggs just like the taste of ketchup. I like it too as a condiment. Call me crazy, not as a main dish. I won't call you crazy. I'll call you a disgrace to your family. Yea, to our society as a whole. People like you should have to wear, what is they had in Game of Thrones? Like some kind of satchel of shame as you walk naked through the streets. That's what they should do. They should pull a Game of Thrones. Have you walk naked through the streets as some librarian woman walks behind you with a bell ringing, yelling, shame, shame. That's what should happen to everybody who puts ketchup on eggs. Give me a shame. Shame. Anyway, next up, Bojax writes, hey, John, I can't remember if you said you're watching Mare of Easttown. I'm not, but I'm about to. I'm about to start watching it. I had really not heard anything about it. And then all of a sudden, people are saying it's like one of the best things on TV. They're saying it's like Kate Winslet's best work of her entire very decorated career. So I am about to start watching it. Anyway, can't remember if you said you're watching Mare of Easttown starring Kate Winslet. If you have, did you see the latest episode? I'm having a feeling this show will get plenty of Emmy recognition when the time comes. So no, haven't watched the latest episode, haven't watched any episodes yet, but now everybody's telling me it's like one of the best things on TV. So I have actually got it all queued up on my Google Chromecast TV, all ready to go. Me and Ann are going to start watching this in the next day or two. So I'm very excited, Bojax, because I keep hearing from people like you who just say it's absolutely fantastic. All right. And our final question of the day, guys. Perfect timing. Our final question of the day, guys, today comes to us from Rick Squire, who writes, John, what are your most and least favorite Vegas casinos? My favorite is Aria. Aria is great. They got a great poker room too. And my least favorite is Circus Circus. Yeah, I've gone into Circus Circus once in my life. I'll never do that again. As it's old and dirty. Though oddly, I'm kind of intrigued by Circus Circus as it kind of feels like a fun dive bar. My favorite actual casino in Vegas. Now, there are two different things. Now, I only go into casinos for one reason. I go into casinos specifically so I can play poker. I go to casinos to play poker. I am a poker player, so that's what I do. I make a lot of money playing poker, so I like playing poker. But my overall favorite casino is actually the Planet Hollywood Casino. The way it's designed, it's got an incredible sense of just electric energy in the whole place. It's like huge, like 200-foot high ceilings and like all this stuff going on. It's just that casino, Planet Hollywood's casino on the Strip in Vegas, it's right beside Paris, is just a fun environment to be in. It's just, you're just there and you're just enjoying yourself. It's got a great vibe, great energy, really cool place. And I really do I like playing poker at Planet Hollywood too. My favorite poker room in Vegas, though, has to be Bellagio. It's not where I play my most poker. I really enjoy playing 8 times out of 10 when I go to Vegas, I will play poker at Caesar's Palace. They have a beautiful poker room. They have a really good staff there. A couple of the staff there are John Campea Show viewers. So whenever I go and play poker I always have 1 or 2 of the dealers and one of the floor managers come over and say hi and stuff like that. So that's always pretty cool too. But really, I love Caesar's poker room. Aria has a beautiful poker room. Not my favorite place to play, but it is an absolutely beautiful poker room. But yeah, I'd say overall my favorite casino, just for the pure energy and vibe of the place, is the Planet Hollywood Casino. So that's my favorite one there. All right. And with that, guys, we're at 12 o'clock. So that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. I told you we'd get through all the ones here today. That'll do it for today's episode of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and making this show a part of your day. Thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for bringing his glory and goodness. And a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those live comments and questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for your support. And by the way, you don't have to wait till the show starts to send in one of those questions. Actually, the earlier you send them in, the earlier they get read on the show. So even when the show's not live, if you want to fire in a question, just go to streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip and fire that in. You're getting your comment or question on the show. And of course, you are supporting our channel at the same time. All right, guys, remember to do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.